Speaking freedom, giving you the answers to be free. Be free.
Ladies and gentlemen, tonight's performance is about to begin.
Hey everybody, welcome to Speaking Freedom TV. Today's episode of Journey to Freedom includes a special guest. Look at him cracking his neck. I want to introduce to you today Mr. Kyle. Hi, Kyle.
Hello. Thank you for having me on. I'm pumped to be here. And I
I
totally was cracking my neck. I was losing on my back there. Oh, took a big breath in just to settle myself. I'm
Mhm,
good.
I totally understand. So, Kyle, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm a clarity consultant, and I've developed a practice I call Neuro-Linguistic Somatic Experience, NLSE for short. And it is a outcomes focused practice rather than a problems focused practice. And it works as a mindset gym for mental fitness. So it helps people uh, have a better opinion of themselves, a better narrative around themselves, and I help folks get unstuck, celebrate the wins and progress, and create goals and targets that they're excited to work towards.
And how did you get into this? Because it sounds very interesting. It kind of sounds solution focused type work. But when you don't use the word solution, you miss the problem portion of it. So I like
Totally, totally. You got to know what the outcome you want is in
that.
order to figure out the solution to the problem in the present.
hmm
Yeah,
And outcome
absolutely.
based is definitely a lot different than solution based because solution is solving a problem, but you're not able to determine the outcome just from finding a solution. It got to be the right solution. So how did you
Totally.
get into this?
In short, I turned my problems into my passions.
Well, Kyle, we're
And
having an interview,
it was
so
more,
we're not doing it
yeah,
short.
totally fair. Longer version, over about the last, not about, it's been about, yeah, it's been 10 years of me developing myself, or I could actually say pursuing freedom, which I
hmm
think freedom is autonomy, it's abundance, it's joy, it's prosperity. And so it started with me not liking the person I was playing at that point in time. I didn't like the character I was. I didn't like the impact I was having on the people around me at that time. And I didn't have much respect, compassion, care, uh, admiration, patience for the person I was at that point. And
hmm
when everything became more so a clean slate, then I pursued change. And I had a higher desire to make a change than it was to wait until the perfect thing was there. So I tried a couple different modalities, therapy, counseling, uh, breath work all the way through, and then story work added into that over time. And the practice I have is a combination of breath work and story work put together.
hmm
And so it's a top to bottom approach. We start with the head and then it goes into the body. So that's where we get the breath and the words and the stories all tied in together. And
That
so
sounds interesting.
now, so then I use these two tools to alter my perception of myself, my own behaviors, my goals and visions. I was able to refine it over time. And through that was able to do it myself. And I was like, this is rock star shit. I'm going to teach it. And so that's what I do now is I teach other people how to do it so they can go from dependent dwellers to autonomous action takers.
Now, and that sounds amazing. It's so easy to get lost in certain patterns of behavior. And if you don't have the right people around or the wherewithal to kind of shake yourself up and say, you know what? I could do better. I want better. Let's focus on the better that I desire and figure out how to get there. That
Mm.
is it's not second nature for a lot of people. So people like us who are Sometimes, I don't want to say the black sheep of families, but definitely we stand out more in societal environments where everybody is desiring to be the same, have the same mindset, mentality, and behavior patterns. So it all seems normal. And that makes people just, well, everybody else is doing it type of thing versus, hey, let's get out of the rat race and do what nobody else is doing.
Totally. And I see that as an adoption of narratives. So
Hmm.
it's not thinking about our thinking, it's adopting another person's thoughts. And we are putting, this is my hypothesis. We're putting and we're prioritizing feeling feeling good in a group,
Hmm.
even if it's a negative, if it's a negative impact on where we want to pursue. And by doing that, we don't challenge our own thoughts. It's just
Hmm.
adopt and do, adopt and do. And so I believe that folks can veer away and turn into their own individual black sheep out of the herd of white sheep. People can mold from one to the other.
Hmm.
And I do think that it's just this it's a in a time where there's like it's interesting because we have a point where we could have such strong ambitious um well-intentioned individuals pursuing progress. And I think of participating in the solution of the problem that you see in the world. So I think that there's more like there's that where it's purposeful actions that are inspired by good intentions. And
Hmm.
then I think on the opposite end, it's ill intentions at the harm of at the harm of oneself in order to feel as though they're a part of a thing.
Hmm.
And that
So,
thing could be negative. Oh, go ahead.
so, uh, I'm curious to know your take on religion and how that plays into the group think world and society that we live in.
I think, well, I think that groupthink can go with a variety of different points. So I don't think it's just a religion component because groupthink is the adoption of collective thoughts that people just agree on. So
Hmm.
I think of it as like if you have a whole bunch of different styles of music, there's hip hop, then there's rock and roll, then there's blues, then there's country. There's different groups that have different genres and they all collect to these tenets. And
Hmm.
if they veer away from those tenets, then they're kicked out of the group. So I think that religion's an organized group. However, I think that protests are organized groups.
Hmm.
I think that foundations are organized groups.
Hmm.
I think that sports teams are organized groups.
So how do you think it plays into people's ability to progress in a way that's good for them as an individual?
Okay. Are you speaking on the idea of
Not the
groupthink?
idea of God, but the way
Okay.
religion, the structure of how religion is like all or nothing. Either like if you're not doing everything that we say, then and sometimes, and I'm asking this because your program sounds as though it it makes you kind of stand out I don't want to say against because it's you're never against. It's just not with all the time based on the way that you think. But
Mm.
people in those type of environments, especially the way the culture is in America, if you're not a part of that environment or that the way of thinking, then
Mhm.
you kind of are pushed out anyway. So it kind of plays here into what I was saying about as far as being accepted and being a part of the group and trying to conform
Mhm. Mhm.
for the sake of acceptance.
Mm. Oh, well, so so for the context, it's religion specific that you're asking about.
No,
Okay.
yeah and no. Kind
Okay.
of, it's just the mindset of religion because I mean, when I say religion, I don't mean one, I mean the whole machine of of
Mm,
religion and here. So, let me ask you this. You're in Canada, right?
yeah, yeah.
How is the culture there when it comes to um belief, faith, and those things?
I think it's very similar to what America would be like too, where because it's such a large amount of landmass,
Mm-hmm.
where it would be, I don't know what the stats are. I know that in the States, it looks like it's increasing. The last I heard a stat on just people join like being a part of a religion. And then I don't know what it's like in Canada overall.
So, do
However,
you
I
think
do.
that? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was gonna go on. Go with your question. I can loop back
It
around.
it was I was just gonna say, do you think that it affects a person's ability to adapt to your program in the sense of
Mm,
breaking the patterns? I think that's
mm,
where my question was kind
fair.
of.
I like that. Okay, I got it now. I was just a hat rack there for a little bit. No,
It's okay.
I actually don't find it to be difficult because it's not only religion that has dogmatic doctrines.
Right.
So how I counter it is I put the autonomy before the individual identity before the group identity.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And so I do work with men and women different only on one point where I focus more on love with ladies, and then with fellas, I work with mostly respect.
mm,
And so going into another thought I have as well is that uh, when I think of the two frames to which people adopt behaviors from the most, it's either from a religion or it's from a philosophy.
mm-hmm,
And so both of them have the same common denominator. Don't be a
mm-hmm.
piece of shit human being.
Mm-hmm.
The difference between the two is where people are rooting their accountability. So with religion, they're rooting their accountability on an external source.
Mm-hmm.
And then for philosophy, it's internal accountability. And so I think that if folks are not taking if they're not becoming a self-authority or
Mm-hmm.
the authority in their own life, then they'll adopt another person's idea of authority and become a duplicate. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that goes across with any point. And so it's similar because you see it in you'll see it in winning awards. You'll see
Mm-hmm.
musicians, they'll be like, I want to thank God for getting me here. Athletes, I want to thank God for getting me here, for putting me through those hard nights, for getting me to belief. And then you have on the opposite end, fellas like Snoop Dogg that are like, I want to thank me for getting me here. I
Mm-hmm.
I veer more towards the me to get me here.
I mean, because even if you believe in God, you still have to do the work.
Totally, totally. And I think that that's what people confuse with idea of manifestation too.
Yeah.
Because if we look at the root word of pray, I forget what the Latin word is. It's something along those lines. That translated to English is to entice. So we
Mm.
pray in order to entice the
Mm-hmm.
reality we want. We manifest in order to create the reality we want. And
Mm-hmm.
so the common denominator, you nailed it on the head, is the individual doing the
Yeah.
work to get the
Mm-hmm.
stuff. So the thing that I also think of that's because I believe that there's a difference when it comes to anything that let's say someone preaches religion, let's say someone preaches philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
The things that I look at that prevent dogmatic uh, dogmatic or a heavily entrenched thought process
Mm-hmm.
is when you see the practitioner behave as he speaks or
Mm-hmm.
as she speaks. So, in my opinion, I think that behaviors tell the truth more than what we believe about a certain thing. When we
I
watch
agree.
something long enough, we'll be able to see the intentionality behind it. Because I think that, and that's me putting in a very like, I'm purposefully wording it as
Mm-hmm.
neutral as possible because I think that folks will. I don't want to be a news anchor where it's
Listen, wait
like
a minute,
you're gonna think
because
of this and this over there. It's
I
like,
already wanted to commend you because you were very strategic about the way you answered my question to make sure that you did not say the wrong thing. And I felt like you may have thought that I was trying to ask you a more
uh,
religious question versus where we got to at the ending where you kind of because it connected to what you had said before about people having a hard time just kind of getting in their own person
yeah,
and
fair.
accepting their responsibility for who they are, where they are. Yes, God helps you. God gives you a plan, puts the thought in your mind, but you have to walk it out. Because if you don't walk it
Yeah,
out, then you'll never get to the place where you can find a solution or get to the outcome that you would like. So for
totally.
you, what has been the hardest thing when trying to get to this place and getting free from the way you used to think?
The thing that would get in my way, the thing that popped in my mind immediately was, to what degree am I going to get in my way?
Mm.
So I had a reflection when I was out for a walk a month ago, I think, and it was if I didn't consciously, if I didn't consciously step in my way, what would I intuitively be pulled to do?
Ooh.
So if my consciousness did not get in the way, what would I just naturally be doing? Because my intuition and my subconscious is going to know what I want better than I consciously know what I want. And so it's our consciousness that gets in the way. So what I've been practicing with that is trying to have much more presence and then practice and making sure that focus is the same. And what happens is as I'm going through life, there's a decrease over time of those intrusive thoughts.
Hmm.
So I can say for certain that it doesn't happen very often where I have intrusive thoughts. And it's actually not until someone asks a question like that that I think about it. I'm like, huh,
Sorry.
yeah. Oh, no, I don't mind because it's more of a sense of gratitude. It's like, oh
Hmm.
yeah, yeah. Because
Yeah,
then it's a moment
you're
of
growing.
reflection.
Hmm.
Totally, totally.
Hmm. And so what did you do? Like, is there certain things that you did? Because, a lot of people are stuck. A
Mhm.
lot of people have a hard time grasping how to get past the shortcomings and pitfalls. So it was there a certain thing that you did? I know that you seem to be very self-motivated, very self-aware. And what would you attest that to? Like, how did you become so self-aware?
Writing a lot,
Hmm.
either in a digital format or voice memo or writing it down on paper, Google or a Google document.
Hmm.
And it was because it works with the phase where the first part, no matter who I work with, is to get unstuck. And it's to declutter the mind to make space to throw the party. And then we go into celebrating the wins. Because if we go into celebrating the wins before we unclutter the mind, then the
It'll be
wins are not
blurry.
going to be as strong. Exactly.
Hmm.
Yeah, it'd be blurry. It'd be blurry. I like
I
that.
mean, you would see the winds, but you would see all of everything. It'd be like a
Totally.
fog, like, you
Yep.
trying to walk through the fog and you could see, but you like, dang, like you can see, but that everything else. So I get it. It is intriguing to speak with you about this as I am editing a book of mine about faith. And the
Mm,
second book is really about getting your vision together, understanding what you want to do, figuring out why you want to do that. And so, I'm at the part where it's, yeah, you have to start to take off all of the reasons why it won't work, all of the excuses that you give yourself to stay where you are, and then grasp and glean to what's going to help you pursue what you really have in your heart to do. And it's very hard for people to figure out in their heart what they really feel that they need to do.
mm. The counter to that is to that goes to the unclutter part where is removing the layers that are providing the distraction and the noise that we can't hear that hard.
So, has how, okay, you've kind of stated how the struggles that you kind of faced changed you. How did it change the way you did business? How did it change? What were you doing before you got into this? And, how did that transition, happen?
Before I was doing this, I was a personal trainer and online fitness or nutrition coach for 13 years.
Hmm.
And so it's not too crazy dissimilar from what I'm doing now. I just went
Yeah,
from working on bodies to working on minds, really.
hmm
Now that I
Do
think
you
about
do
it, it's like,
you do
yeah,
you do both? Do you intertwine the two at all?
not at this point, no, not yet. I do have a way, I'm just focusing on the head stuff
Yeah,
and then the body stuff. If someone, like if I'm working with a group of people in a
that need
community,
that particular thing.
yeah, or not even need if they ask for it and they're like,
Hmm.
dude,
Hmm. Hmm.
show us your tricks. I'll be like, shit,
Right.
cool. Yeah, sure be cool. It'll be like a throwback. I dig it. Um, and how this practice has helped with business overall is that has made it to be, it has become a way to limit limitations and reduce resistance.
Hmm.
So removing the perceived limitations, the things that we may see as obstacles in the way, and actually just it, removing and rejecting the obstacles that we don't even need to face.
Right.
And then from that point, oh, what was the other thought I had there? And it was reducing resistance. So resistance, when we feel resistance towards things, it's either a fear, self-sabotage, also known
Hmm.
as procrastination, which I
Hmm.
define as active participation in preventing our progress.
Listen.
And then oh, what was the other one? So it was rejection, judgment, self-sabotage, and fear. And those are the sources of resistance.
Yeah.
And so figuring out where those are felt, what are those stories, and then
Hmm.
being able to
Hi, I'm Dr. Kaci. Nice to meet you.
Thank you for joining us from all over the world here at Speaking Freedom TV, brought to you by Good Head Group, Love Gang, and Speaking Freedom. We look forward to helping you grow today and all the days of your life.
I'm innovative. I'm not just cool with whatever. That's the difference. I'm not saying that I'm special. This is just who I am. My differences make me Casey. Just like everybody else's differences make them them.
What Speaking Freedom does online is provide general information for the culture to use to advance and improve. What we do privately is help individualize it for your needs and benefits. Grow with us.
reduce that resistance, limit the limitations, and
Hmm.
make things a lot smoother. Now, there's a caveat to that, is
Okay.
that's the process, that's the steps. If someone doesn't want to change, then it doesn't matter.
Mm.
Because if we want to experience a different life, we have to become the person it takes to receive it. If we want to stay the way as we are, we're only going to ever get what we've already gotten. And it's
Hmm.
just going to be on repeat. So I think that people always talk about the hows and the whys,
Hmm.
and very few are like, do you actually want to make a change?
Right. You
Is it
know,
like actually something you want to do, or is this just like mental masturbation that you're thinking and
right.
about doing?
Yeah, and you just never really do.
Yeah.
I struggle with wanting to take on life coaching clients because I realize that a lot of people don't want to change. And the wildest thing is when you observe people enough, you can tell almost immediately if a person really wants change or if they just like the story that they're in and they like to
Mhm.
keep it on repeat to keep themselves going in a cycle that's going to be really endless because until you change the narrative. You can't change the story that you tell yourself every day. And a lot of
Hmm.
people, they just don't want to do it. They want somebody to complain to. And it's so crazy because I'm a very realistic person. I've come from a very crazy background. I've accomplished a lot, but the crazy background allowed me to be a realist. I can be optimistic. I can, I definitely look at the reality of the I count the cost. What is
Nice.
this like? It can something bad can happen. So we're not gonna act like it can't, and we're not gonna look at the possibilities. When I look at possibilities, I look at the good, the bad, and the ugly. I look at the indifferent
Hmm.
too. But a lot of people, it's just unfortunate they don't know how to weigh their options, look at what's before them, and take it all in, and then focus
Totally.
on the good more than they focus on the not so good or what could go wrong. A lot of people get so caught up in what can go wrong. And I'm talking to myself here because listen, there's some stuff that I want to do. I want to invest in property. I want to do a lot of stuff, but I find myself um procrastinate. The definition that you use, because listen,
You're
there are some things.
preventing progress, hey?
Yeah, yeah,
Cool.
yeah, yeah. I'm just
Yeah.
twiddling my thumbs here. I'm twiddling my thumbs and you're calling me out. I appreciate it. Okay. Because even with editing my book now, definitely need rest days. Don't work yourself
Hmm.
to the ground to where you don't rest. You don't take time to allow your body to simmer, take it all in. Even though I'm
Hmm.
editing a book, I have to take rest days, but even rest days feel like procrastination to me because I'm like, I can do it right here at home. I can rest while I'm
Hmm.
typing, but if your mind doesn't rest, then you don't really rest. And a lot of people, including myself, have a hard time just woosah, hey,
Yeah,
hey down,
yeah.
down, like hey.
Yeah.
So, I, I, I give grace because I know that there are some things that I struggle with myself.
Hmm.
But really, it's more, I think I'm very hard on myself. But being very
Hmm.
hard on myself is what makes me excel, makes me keep going, makes me do more versus
Hmm.
being, and not hard on myself. Like I'm not beating myself up, but I am not letting myself settle as well.
Mm. Can I ask a question that popped up at that?
Yes.
In this process of being hard to yourself on yourself, are you also being kind to yourself?
I do. I give myself grace. I do
Okay.
give myself grace. And I acknowledge myself a lot more. That is something that I had to learn over time
Hmm.
because I will always be trying to fix, fix, fix. And then I wouldn't see the effort that I was making and the progress that was being made as well. So I would kind of
Mm.
dismiss my own success and,
Mm.
the accomplishments that I have. And then I had to learn literally, hey, you've done a lot. If you don't do nothing else, you okay. Like just calm
Totally.
down. Take your time. You know you got stuff you want to do. You're working on. You're striving for. You're not just. I twiddle my thumbs, but even twiddling my thumbs when you're a writer, it's
Hmm.
never really a calm down time because your mind is always thinking about not necessarily what to write. It just
Hmm.
always works. My mind is always going. It's like, it's never ending factory, okay?
Something that's interesting, this is timely too, because I had this thought last week. Uh, and it was because I'm actually prioritizing resting and
Hmm.
recharging
Hmm.
because I know I can work. I already know my volume for work.
Right.
So a couple of things that I've been doing was the reflection that popped up, or the question was, it was actually just not even a thought, it was don't work. And that being a goal, because it's easier for me to set work goals than to
Hmm.
not work
Hmm.
goals.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so what I found after implementing not work goals, and then I also implement time constraints. So for example, if I'm doing like creative work, like editing or creating something where I have maker time and manager time.
Mm.
And so in maker time, that's my highest priority time. Manager time, I can just do it on a flow. Like I
Hmm.
do that in client sessions, podcast recordings, whatever. The maker time, that's the sweet spot. And so something that I actually have more so as a rule is that I now frame anything more than ideally 4 hours as negative.
Mm.
So I don't put the duration of time on a project as the highest point. It's the quality of work in a shorter duration
In
of
the,
time. And then that also breaks up the day naturally. So you have your focus time where it's just 4 hours, boom, boom, boom. Then you have no choice but to allow yourself to rest and recharge.
mm-hmm,
Because that's also a part of the flow cycle as well. In order for us to go through the flow cycle, we first start with the struggle. It's a struggle to start. Over time, it becomes easier. That's when
mm-hmm,
we fall into the release. We release from that struggle. Then we move into the flow state. That's when we're present, we're dialed in, and it takes about 90 minutes. And we can do more work in a flow state in a shorter period of time than outside of that. There's a couple cool little studies from that one too. Uh, and then after that flow state, recovery. And people don't recover. And their recovery, like let's say for example, oh yeah, how do you recover? Oh, I watched like 2 episodes of Netflix. Your brain's still
mm-hmm.
active. You're not
Right.
actually
Mm-hmm,
recovering.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
You're still having some sort of input, some sort of, it's not an actual processing. So it's not like going outside and walking or going for a walk or getting that body activated and into what you just did. So that's how I organized it now is to create don't work goals or not work goals and then insert it into my day so that I can try to optimize that flow cycle. So I do have a pretty routine existence. Like my day to day is pretty consistent. And so I try to aim to be in that flow state, in that state of presence, that active meditation as I'm doing the things that are of quality rather than allocating a lot of time for quantity, even if I want to, because I actually want to do that. So I'm trying to retrain my thought to go for that quality, not time. Because I think that if there was a company that that had 5 to 6 hours, so let's say uh, it was 4 hours, then a break, and then an additional 2 hours, for example, or additional three. I think that people would be able to get more work done, and then it would make the company more money. Because the average now, people work 8 hours per day, and the average time that they are working per day is 1.45 hours.
mm-hmm,
So out of 8 hours, they're barely putting in 2 hours,
mm-hmm.
and the rest of it is just
It's just too much time
moving around.
and yeah, yeah. But when you have a focus time, it definitely helps. And
Mhm.
definitely being on a schedule is great. I have a somewhat of a schedule, but it's really all over the place. I am a massage therapist when I'm not doing book work and podcasts. So juggling them all is pretty cool though, because it gives me an opportunity to get away from it all, kind of allow my head to be kind of clear because when you're massaging someone, you're not really thinking about whatever you get going
Going
on.
through
You're
the
focused on,
practice.
yeah,
Yeah.
so I like the absence away from everything else that I do. And I don't have to do it a whole lot. I don't, have to, it has become to be a great balance. So
Cool.
if there was anything about your story that you can change, what would it be?
Nothing.
Why not?
Because I truly believe that where I am right now is exactly where I'm meant to be. And that if there was any possibility to alter that,
You wouldn't.
I would not want to do it. So for
Mm,
example, like someone asked me, like if I was time traveling, anything, period, like any time travel, period. If it's the future, I could handle that. That's a little bit different. However, if it's the past, and if someone was like, "Hey, dude, you have 1 hour, you could travel wherever you want, blah 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 blah." There's a couple things I'd have to ask. I'd be like, "Okay, is the butterfly effect in this?
Right?
Am I going to go back in time and end up doing
So,
something and then I end up meeting my younger self and then completely mess up the trajectory I'm on?" I wouldn't want
mhm.
to do that. If it was the style where it was time travel, however, I couldn't interact, then that'd be cool. Where if I was just observing. like on a
Yeah.
platform or something. I'd be cool with that because that's more
To
observer.
understand.
Sick,
Mm-hmm,
cool.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And then if there was a guarantee that anything I did in the past would not negatively impact my present, then yeah, I would do it then.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because
The
and
guarantee is needed because I agree.
yeah, and so I'll go into more detail on that too. I think that because Steve Jobs has a quote, it says, you can only connect the dots looking backwards.
Mm-hmm,
So everything makes sense when you look backwards.
mm-hmm,
So I'm looking back on not just the last 10 years, but my whole lifetime. Then I'm able to see how each of those events, all those people, all those experiences that I got to encounter got me to this point in time.
mm-hmm,
And so if I'd want to change something about it, it means I haven't made peace with it. And so
mm-hmm.
I can make peace with it now if I want to. Yeah. So
I,
yeah, I
I
wouldn't
love
change
your
it too much.
answer. I often ask that question because people um need to realize that once you create the life that you want, exactly what you said. You can look back and you can see why all those things need to happen. So I really push for people to look at their life experiences and traumas to find lessons. What can you
Mhm.
learn from this, whether not to experience it again, or how can you use something from there to help
Mhm.
impact your life moving forward in a better way?
Mhm.
And if you do that, then that trauma won't feel like trauma no more. It's almost
Totally.
like in the mindset if you laugh where you cried at before. If you can create experiences to change the narrative of the story that you tell yourself,
Hmm.
because honestly speaking, um, the person on the other end might not feel the narrative was the way that you're telling yourself. So if
Possibly.
you are able to kind of reshape the way you think about what happened, then you can reshape how you look at that experience. Yeah,
Mm,
something bad happened, but oh, look what I got from that bad experience and how it changed me for the better.
totally. And to add to that, there's another part as well. This is something that I experienced where uh on paper, like if I would talk about my past experiences, then some folks would be like, holy crap, that's freaking crazy. Like, how'd you get out of that? How are you like,
Mhm,
holy
mhm,
shit?
mhm, mhm,
And so the interesting thing is to me, like, I don't connect myself to past experiences to the point where I just don't do that. It's done. All I can
mhm,
create is from here on. That's
mhm,
it. And so, something that was interesting is when I was in my teens, early 20s, uh, I would feel a certain way about my experiences because I adopted other people's narratives of what I should feel about it. So,
mhm,
although I have energy neutrality towards it, I had a feeling because I was supposed to feel it.
mhm.
It's like, oh my gosh, that was crazy. It's like, I don't know, it's fine. I'm
Right.
good. And so I think that so there's a two-part, like what you said, and then creating army, like what does that event mean to us?
Mhm,
Like
mhm,
me, not as to everyone else. What does it mean to me? And or what does it mean about me?
mhm.
And we can find truth in those stories and those experiences. And when we find those truths, then we find affirmations that we are who we say we are. And then we
Exactly.
counter wishful thinking. And my definition for wishful thinking is affirmations without the evidence to back it up.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
like that. If there was a piece of advice that you could give a person that may need answers, what would you give them?
Mm. Is there a specific context on what they want answers to? Okay,
Nope.
cool. I'll just flow with it
Go
then.
for it.
I'll go with uh I'll go with something that I do with my clients that folks can practice today because that'll be easy flow. And I'll explain why and I'll just teach about it. So there's soft talk and solid talk. It's our part of our narrative architecture. It's what we speak all the time, what we say, think, and write. So we have soft talk and then we have solid talk. Soft talk is unclear, indecisive, ambiguous language. Solid talk is clear, concise, and decisive. An example of soft talk, and you'll recognize a couple of these words. Everyone will. I might make it to the party for 5 p.m. I'm probably going to make it to the party for 5 p.m. I could make it to the party for 5 p.m. I should make it to the party for 5 p.m. I kind of want to be at the party for 5 p.m. I might go to the party at 5 p.m. Like all of these are soft talk words. Might, could, should, probably, could, or what else do we got? Kind of. There's a whole bunch of, there's about 16 of them. And when a statement can be followed up with a question, then the statement is instead solid enough. So are you or are you not going to be at the party for 5 p.m.?
Right.
Now we've removed the soft talk, we remove the probablys, the maybes, the shoulds, the coulds. I'm going to make it to the party for 5 p.m. I'm not going to the party, or I'm undecided, I'll let you know. And so what happens when we remove the soft talk is it puts us into a position to make a decision. And what happens is we microdose decision making because we fill in the soft talk with what seems to be irrelevant things. Like, I'm probably going to go to the gym today. I'm going to go to the gym today. It has a different feel to it. And when we make more decisions, when we're microdosing decision making, we become stronger in our decision making. We have more competence in our decision making, which, well, over time makes us more confident because confidence is a side effect of competence. And something else, because you mentioned your book about faith, confidence in Latin is confide. And confide translated is to have faith. So for one to have faith and confidence, they're intertwined. They're a dance.
That's beautiful.
Cool. And so when we actually remove the soft talk, then we become more decisive individuals. Then we trust our decisions over time. And when we can make the small decisions, we can make the big decisions because we know we're badasses.
And if you make enough small decisions right, you'll have the confidence to make those big decisions.
Easily.
Do you have any books that you have written, or how can we get in touch with you and your podcast? Do you have one?
I do.
Let's tell us about it.
I have not written a book. However,
Yet.
it's yet is pretty much the way that's going. Because just with the work that I'm doing and what I'm exploring, it seems to be inevitable that I will write a book, which I'm pumped about. And when I write a book, I do have an idea of how I'd want to write it. It would be more like I would like to write it with where it would be a little bit more like a philosophy book, where it would be less about me and more about the essence of what I'm talking about, where I'll have stories in it to make a point. However, I want it to be something that someone can pull from themselves, where they resonate with it pretty quick. So book at some point. And then I do have a podcast. I put it on break just to work on this practice. However, it's called the Limitless Life Podcast. I have over 100 episodes. And then if people want to know about my work and what I do, clarityconsultant.ca. That's where people can find me. If people want to actually have a conversation, then my social media handles Dapper Dude Kyle, DapperDudeKyle.
All right. And of course, we'll have all that information available in the below, down there. You'll find all that in this description so that you can follow Kyle. Of course, you'll continue to follow and subscribe to Speaking Freedom TV. Kyle, thank you so much. It was such a pleasure to speak with you. You have so much insight, wisdom, and wherewithal. Like, I love your energy and just what you bring to the world.
Thank you. I received that, and you know what? Game recognizes game.
I love it. I love it. Well, until next time, everybody, this has been another episode of Speaking Freedom TV, Journey to Freedom.
Hi, I'm Dr. Kaci, not your typical clinical doctor. I am an ordained minister, but not your typical minister. I am also a certified life coach, love coach, sex coach, solution focused coach, transformation coach, and more. I have a whole lot of information that I would like to help you grow with. And I hope that soon I can help you be the best you that you can be. Confidence, spirituality, and purpose. That's wholeness, complete. Hi, I'm Kaci, Dr. Kaci. Welcome to Speaking Freedom. We are happy to have you, and we hope that we are able to help you in every way possible. Have a good evening. If you've enjoyed this video, like, share, subscribe, and turn on your notifications. New episode every Friday.